Good evening, Red Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. My name is Jim Delfino, and I am your host again for this evening. So, the Boston Red Sox are back. The Old Town team is now 53 and 47 on the season, as the 10-game win streak seems like it was 3 months ago. That's right, the lovable losers that disappeared at the end of the first half have returned to give us heartburn and indigestion. I am joined tonight with Nick Face, who thinks that Yoshida may have had an inside scoop to get those two hits off Imanaga. And I'm also joined by Thayer Doyle, who believes that the Red Sox might just sign Orlando Cabrera this offseason instead of Edgar Renteria. As always, let's get into it. Thayer, let's start with you. What is your takeaway and reaction to today's stinker?
Oh, the takeaway is I'm not shocked. Not shocked at all. The team that we are seeing is the same team that we've seen all year. They've been up and down, in and out, consistent, inconsistent. 10-game winning streak was fantastic. 6 of those were against garbage competition, so it shouldn't be shocking. When you have quadruple A and journeyman players facing major league competition, you're going to have ups and downs. And these last two games, offensively, you've seen the downs. Pitching wise, the starters have been difficult in the first inning. They've had issues. Yesterday, we walked them and then gave up the bombs. Today, to Bayo's credit, he wasn't walking them, but he just gave up the bombs. But both of them did manage to settle down, get through the rest of their start for the most part. The wind was blowing out today in Chicago. That's going to happen. Chicago, the Cubs were getting the ball up in the air. The Red Sox were incapable of getting it up in the air except when they're popping up. So it's not a shocking outcome. It's disappointing. You wish that they were able to put up a little bit more fight. But again, hopefully tomorrow we come out with a little bit more offensive consistency and you get behind Crochet and at least we salvage a W.
Nick Face, same question to you. What is your reactions to tonight's stinker and overall the last two games in total?
I think I understand now, Jim, why you named this podcast Red Sox Digest. I fully am aware now why you did that. Because tonight, it was the Red Sox barf bag. That's exactly what that was tonight. First inning, again, came down to a blow up. That first inning with this team, the ERA is now 630 something now, or something like that. It was 6 yesterday, and now another 3 runs right there for Bayo. Again, it's one of those things where if you eliminate the first inning, it's a quality start. But this team, just just how just how mentally they are, gets themselves all checked out right in that first inning, and that's what we saw again here today. Um, Bayo, to me, after the first inning, made some adjustments and was able to get through it. Chris Murphy came in, gave up a home run. Again, they were out of it at that point. You knew when you had that lineup come out earlier today, when Connor Wong was in there, it screamed doomsday.
It sure did. It really is upsetting when you get a game like this where you're facing some of the better competition in the league, and you actually have two fairly decent starts from your last two pitchers. Giolito, he started off obviously with the 2 walks and the home run yesterday, and he settled down. It was 5 1/3 innings, almost a quality start. And the same thing with Bayo today, gave you a quality start. And, so it's really disappointing that, the Red Sox didn't have enough pitching to neutralize the Cubs, but they also didn't have the offense either. And this is what happens now when you're going to be facing arguably what's been told as the worst or hardest schedule for the second half of the season. The Red Sox are supposedly having the hardest schedule of any team in the MLB. And that being said, it means that a lot of the easy wins are gone, and it starts to put into perspective 6 of the games that we had at the end of the first half. I really don't want to count the Rays because they still are a competitive team, but now you start wondering, how really bad were the Reds and obviously the Nationals and the Rockies? Because granted, a win is a win, but you start getting short sighted as to how good you really are. And now you're looking at a situation where you couldn't score, you pitched just enough, just well enough to lose outside of your bullpen tonight. And now we start thinking to ourselves, now we're looking for just trying to get a salvage game with Crochet tomorrow. And what does it mean looking forward to the Phillies series and the Dodgers series? This could be a train wreck of a week and a half. Starting with a little bit more on Bayo, just to get your comments: 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Nick, starting with you, what did you see from Bayo tonight? Were you pleased with his performance outside of the fact that we lost, or do you think he should have done more?
I was expecting more. I'm not going to lie on that. I wasn't expecting the first inning debacle. Totally wasn't going there. I think we saw a little bit of the glimpse of a little bit of the old Brian Bayo where he loses it after something catastrophic happens to him. Back to back home runs really triggered that gotta figure it out mentality for him. And that's been a big struggle for him in the big leagues over his course of his career. It's figuring out how to mentally get himself back into a rhythm of trust and understanding. I don't know about you guys. Connor Wong, he was behind the plate tonight. Do we chalk up any of that to him to lead off the game? It could be a point. But again, I do look at the execution of the pitches from Bayo, and I just think that he threw them in the happy zone. And it was tea time. It was happy time. And those Cubs went to their happy place.
Fair, same question to you. Your reactions on Brian Bayo's start, obviously, as it relates to tonight and overall the entire season. Obviously, facing a very good Cubs lineup. Their 1 through 4 is as good as anybody in the major leagues. What did you see tonight? What are you concerned about? And what are your thoughts moving forward for the remainder of this season?
Ironically, with Bayo, I actually am coming out of this feeling a little bit more comfortable with him, to be honest. To Nick's point, I was really worried that after he was ambushed on the first pitch for the home run, then got behind Tucker and gave up a home run again. Both home runs were on fastballs. First was the sinker, then the four-seamer. I was really nervous that we were going to see that old Brian Bayo who totally loses confidence, goes to the slider, just throwing it out of the strike zone, not willing to pitch to contact. But he managed to get out of the first inning. He got the next 3 guys out and then settled down. He gave up a run again in the second, but for the most part, that was the situation where previous outings, Bayo probably collapses and it just becomes an unwatchable episode of cowardice, and I'll call it dice K, nibbling. He didn't do that. He maintained his composure. He stayed focused. He battled through his outing. And yes, the Cubs are a good offensive team. And when the wind is blowing out in Chicago, any possible pitch can go out at any moment. And to his credit, he battled through it. The idea behind Wong, we'll get to him. I agree with you, Nick. I don't like him right now. I'm struggling with him, but to blame him for the 2 runs, and we blamed Navarez yesterday for the walks. It comes down to the pitcher not being able to execute, not being able to find his spot. And that's the number one key, is that 6 ERA in the first inning, that really falls on your pitching coach, and the need to really prepare your team and the pitchers that are going in for what's going on. They need to figure out whatever's happening, why these pitchers are not capable of getting through the first inning without giving up monumental damage, especially for a team that is inexperienced, young, and is a front-running ball club. If you give up runs in the first inning, you're in a lot of trouble with this team.
I was going to say, remember last season, this was a big problem with Nick Pivetta. Remember when they had to put him into the bullpen, and as soon as he came out, he figured it out. So whatever they used with Pavetta, my recommendation is use the same approach with your guys, every single one of them. Every single one, you got to figure it out. Block out the first inning. Do whatever you got to do. Go from the stretch. Some sort of adjustment has got to get made. But this has been an ongoing issue with Andrew Bailey as pitching coach. They get bombarded in the first inning, and it knocks you out of many of these games, and you can't continue that.
Yeah, great points on both ends here. The other part of this that, is a concern for me is that, patient and people are going to say, look, on Twitter, oh, everybody's rusty. Well, Imanaga didn't look too rusty tonight. So why is it just the Red Sox that have to get the virtual pass and the opposition doesn't? So I don't really, buy into the rust thing. But if you look at it in a vacuum, Bayo gave you a quality start. If every pitcher in your rotation went 6 innings, 3 earned runs or less, I think you take that 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. So I can't really fault him too much. I think in a vacuum it looked worse because it was back to back and so forth. But the reality is you would take that start and you would take Giolito's start too from yesterday. He settled down. They both settled down. I think that's the key takeaway to the first two games, even though you want to try to find a bright spot, is the fact that both of them were able to settle down and pitch like they were before. And that, to Thair's point, one of the big issues that you saw early on in the season was the fact they were giving up a lot of runs in that first inning. And then, of course, especially during that 10-game winning streak, it was one of the things that they seemed to fix. They weren't giving up runs in that first inning, and it meant all the difference in the world. So they need to find a way to kind of harness that first inning problem, however you want to describe problem, and go from there. But we can't take away the fact that it was the offense in the last two nights that really kind of let us hang out to dry. Kind of moving around to the next topic. In this game, I think they had an opportunity to maybe make some heyday. I think it was the sixth inning. Connor Wong comes up with 2 outs on first and third. My question to you, Nick, I'll start. Why was he allowed? In my opinion, why was he allowed to hit for himself in that at bat? I think that was egregious. What is your take?
The problem is Navarez is struggling right now, and Navarez looks like he's gassed. So Cora has no other choice but to keep Wong in the game. Jim, I hate it. We have one massive problem, Connor Wong, and another who's a problem right now, Carlos Navarez. I don't know what to do. You have nobody else on your depth chart that's going to step into this role. That's the only reason. I was screaming for it too. Connor Wong had no business being in this game, has no business hitting in the situation that he did. But what are we going to do? We going to put, who was on the bench tonight? You're going to put Marcelo Meyer at catcher? You're going to put Jaron Duran at catcher? You can't. You don't have that option. So Connor Wong has to hit, and it's pathetic.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where, Cora just was going to stay away from him no matter what. I don't
think it's fair. I will say, and I'm one of the big ones for Cora, and I will harp on him till the cows keep crowing, or whatever the saying is. You can't get mad at Cora for this. You can't. It's what this roster is right now. You're not. If you played Carlos Navarez every game, you can't. You just can't. As much as you want to throw him into that situation, like, I get it. I get what he's trying to do here with workload and all that. This is what Connor Wong is. Again, he's got 1 RBI on the season, no home runs. He's hitting .144. I'd rather a police escort to Chicago right now to bring Doug Mirabelli in right now. That's how I feel. 60-year-old Dougie. Get him in.
I mean, a lot of good points there. And, again, you look at yesterday, I think it's and again, Navarez is starting to struggle, and you got to watch the innings. He's never been into this amount of innings before in this deep into a season. He's a rookie. And I think a lot of people keep forgetting that he's a rookie unless they're reminded. But when you have a guy like him being pinch hit for, and I mentioned this on yesterday's podcast, he's your number 4 hitter. And you're pinch hitting for your number 4 hitter. That's a very rare thing to happen. And there's been instances where it's been, Roman Anthony and him back to back, 3 and 4. I mean, how many times do you have rookies batting 3 and 4 in your lineup? To especially on the Boston Red Sox, it's not a very common thing. Thayer, your reactions to Connor Wong's at bat. Do you think he should have been pinch hit for? What's your take on that situation?
I was the one that put it in the war room. Why is he hitting here? But to Nick's point, it's not Cora's fault. It's entirely the roster. Um,
Yep.
You don't necessarily have to hit Narvaez there, but the problem is you have a roster of platoon players. So today, with the lefty pitching, you had all of your right-handed bats that would normally be on the bench or something like that in the game. So the only other right-handed bat you have available is your other catcher who you want to get the time off for. So that's a situation where in previous years, you Ref Snyder or Gonzalez, who are your bench bats, one of them is available to hit. With the roster that they've put together, they have to be in the starting lineup. And getting to your point where Narvaez isn't a 4-hitter. No, he's not. But you don't have a team of professional hitters. You have rookies and journeymen that they have to mix and match. You're throwing your left-handed lineup, your right-handed lineup. When you do that, that means all you have available on your bench is left-handed hitters, and they're there because they can't hit against a left-handed pitcher. And that's where they're struggling at, and that's what we're going to continue to see. It's an inconsistent ball club because of it's an inconsistent roster, and they're going to continue to have these difficulties against quality pitchers moving forward. Should Wong have been hitting there? No. Do I think Narvaez would have gotten a hit or done anything different? Probably not. I would have liked to have seen something done there, but there's nothing available, and that's the unfortunate issue.
So one of the things that has been a problem with this lineup is that they'll go out and they'll score 10 plus runs in a given game, and people are going to say, "Oh, why tinker with with the lineup because they're scoring runs. They don't have Rafi Devers anymore. They're still scoring runs. This team can score. We don't need to go out and get some prolific bat like a Matt Olson or a Eugenio Sanchez or whatnot and so forth." My point is this. These are the type of games where you get that exposure to the inconsistencies of the batters. Now, in some situations, why can't Jaron Duran face a left-hander? Why can't Marcelo Meyer face a left-hander? Why can't Willie Abreu face a left-hander? To me, I understand the splits are there, but you can't get better by not having them pinch hit in that situation versus Connor Wong. So it just clearly he had no intention of having Navarez catch the rest of that ball game. Otherwise, I think you try pinch hitting one of those guys, and that's again, like to your point, the roster construction. And I think that's where, regardless of these 10-run plus games that we've been, seeing, regularly over this season, it's going to come back to bite us in the butt because we just don't have we don't have enough in that roster. These guys can score runs and they can be effective, but they're not going to be long lasting for a full season. Nick, your reaction to that?
It's just not consistent. That's the issue here. You'll get those big games, but guys, I got to say something, and I'm sure you might agree with this. And some fans out there might say, I can't believe you'd rather see them lose or continue to be a 500 team. The worst thing that happened to this current Boston Red Sox team right now is that 10-game winning streak. Because all it did right now was put something in our mind that says, oh, they're going to be buyers. Oh, they actually can be good. Oh, wait, it's not been this bad this season. That's how I'm processing it. And I'm saying it and I'm emphasizing this right now in case a month down the line, somebody wants to come and say, what an idiot. Right now, you are up against the cream of the crop in baseball. And you're not good. You're not. The Cubs are far superior ball club than the Boston Red Sox. The Cubs made you look like fools the last 2 games. Let's be real on that. So, yeah, the 10-game winning streak, it was cute. It was real cute. And now it stinks because you're right back to where you started. This could be a sweep from the Cubs, and then here come the Phillies, here come the Dodgers, and there's your month. You also have the Twins mixed in at the end of the month too. So you have much better much better ball clubs right now, and it's at a stage right now where if you're throwing out guys like Connor Wong because you have to, because that's what the roster is constructed with, and you're throwing out Abe Toros making mental mistakes because you have to, because you don't want to play Marcelo Meyer against lefties. And I think that's a joke. 100% a joke. He should have been playing tonight. That's your ball club. You don't have any thump in your lineup. Nothing. And I'm sorry, I don't see Craig Breslow going out here, going to get a Matt Olson or a Marcelo Zona or any of those big name kind of bats. It's not coming. So fasten your seatbelt because we're heading into a bumpy ride.
I think if the Red Sox were, I mentioned this during the All Star break, and I think on last Sunday, and I said that they really should do something sooner than later. I know probably not many moves get done during the break, if any at all, but I was really counting and hoping that something would have been done yesterday or today, which leads me to believe that ownership and management is going to wait this out. They're going to wait the next uh, series with the Phillies and then finally the Dodgers to make a decision as to whether or not they are a team worth investing in. So I don't think they even were believers in this 10-game winning streak, to be quite honest with you. I think if they did, and I think if Dombrowski was still here, I think something would have been cooking. You would have heard more. You would have seen more smoke where there's fire.
Absolutely.
And I'm getting this impression of 22, 23, and 24 again, where no one, neither Heimblum nor Breslow wanted to invest in this team and try to improve that. And I feel as though they are going to wait this out until after the Dodgers series and reassess where they're at. And frankly, I think if they don't go 5-4 in this 9-game stretch, I think they're going to sell and they're just going to get off all the pieces. There, what's your reaction?
I don't know about 5-4. I think 4-5 they'll survive it. The the Phillies are in first place, but the Phillies are a flawed ball club too. The Dodgers have superior talent, but they're struggling as well. I think they've lost 7 of 10, so they're not firing on all cylinders either. The key really for the Red Sox is that they have to look at this year like the Tigers looked at last year. They have to get competitive. They have to have a September and hopefully an October where they are learning how to be winners again, because that's what this franchise has been missing for a number of years, how to actually win ball games. They haven't been in competitive games. They have kids, and there's really 2 ways to approach this. You just let the kids play. You let Marcelo play. You let Anthony play, and you sort of take your lumps with it. And chances are they're going to have their struggles. We've seen enough of Meyer so far. He's struggling with the major league lefties. He has had some really awkward at bats that really question how well he's going to be able to do right now. He's going to learn. He's going to get better at it. But if you need to win right now, you have to put yourself in the best position to win. And I don't know if he's it right now. against left-handed pitchers. So what they have to do is continue to grind. I would love to see a starting pitcher. I don't think a bat is going to be the answer to this. I'd love, the first base bat. Talking about getting somebody. I know the Diamondbacks and the Braves have guys that we can sort of talk about, Olson and things like that. I don't know if that's truly the answer because they can be silenced by good pitching. What we need is good pitching to silence the bats, hopefully, of our opponents, to give ourselves opportunities. We need to play intelligent baseball. We saw that during the 10-game winning streak because they were playing with confidence. They were playing together as a team. What did we see today? Lead off double, get the man to third base, and then strike out, no run, squander. First pitch, home run, you're losing 1-0. So you went on the roller coaster ride in the first inning. Hey, we have a chance to get on top. We don't get on top. We give up the run. Now suddenly the fragile psyche of the team starts to wane. And that's the problem. You're dealing with kids. And when you're dealing with kids, this is not the '04 Red Sox. This is not the '07 Red Sox. This is not the 2013 Red Sox or the 2018 Red Sox that we sort of really built our love of this team on. It's different. They're kids. They are not going to be able to bounce back, which is why I'm taking Bayo's performance today as a positive. Months ago, he would have crumbled. Last year, good gracious, that probably would have been a 10-0 game in the third, and he's out of there. We've wasted all our bullpen, and now in this really difficult run, we have a spent bullpen, and our number 2 pitcher's brain is fried. Here, we still have the bullpen ready to roll. We have Crochet tomorrow. Hopefully, he gets us a win, and then we deal with the Phillies with hopefully a team that's got a little bit more confidence, and if nothing else, a bullpen that hasn't been completely obliterated.
Yeah, I just hope they can whistle past the graveyard in these next, 7 games that remain because you need to show that you can beat something there. Because if you do have any kind of hope about going deep into October, you are going to face the better competition. And again, along with that, it's going to be better pitching. So you've got to be able to hit that pitching. And to your point there, they've got to be able to have the pitching to match the good pitching that they're going to see. And that's where, a number 2 starter comes into play and why I think, I'm completely against what Rosenthal had said. That being said, moving over to the bullpen just briefly before we talk about the Philly series, Chris Murphy, who has been pretty reliable since coming back from Tommy John surgery, got his brains beat in tonight. 3 home runs allowed, and I was starting to become a Chris Murphy fan, and now that I've seen this, I don't know if it's just chalk it up to bad luck. Every reliever is going to go through it. Or does this mean that it's just another guy in that bullpen that we cannot rely on? Thayer, I'll start with you on that.
I'm not going to say he's not someone we can rely on. However, he is, again, a young pitcher who we have to remember this is probably his first time in Wrigley Field. There's something to be said about going to these places that you grew up being in awe of, and when you get on that mound, there is a historical aspect to it. Oh my God, here I am. And oh, look, the wind is blowing out. And he hung a curveball to a right-handed hitter who destroyed it. Now he's like, what am I going to do? I can't really beat these guys with my fastball. I'm going to try to be cute. He makes another mistake. That's what we've been talking about. When you make mistakes with fastballs, you can get away with them in some cases simply because of the nature of the pitch. When you make a mistake with an off-speed pitch, it tends to go a long way because even when they're fooled, these major league hitters can adjust. And that's really what it comes down to. Do I think he's going to be a problem? No, I don't. I think ultimately he's probably somebody that you're going to be able to rely on going down the stretch. He had a bad outing. It's going to happen.
Nick, face your thoughts and reactions on Chris Murphy's debacle, and do you still trust him after this, or is he regulated now for a mop-up role?
There is one bullpen arm on this Red Sox team who I fully trust. That is Aroldis Chapman. That's it, guys. Every single one of them, whether it's your Garrett Whitlock, whether it's your Greg Weissert, whether it's your Bernardino, and whether it's tonight your Chris Murphy. Every single one of them is a roller coaster ride. It goes up, it goes down, it middles out, it goes up again, it goes down, and does the loop-de-loop whirly whirl. That's what they are. That is the best way I can define the rest of the guys in this bullpen. Experience is not something they have. They do not have track records for the most part. Maybe you can say a Justin Wilson a little bit if you want to go there. But again, he could get his brains beat out at any point. It's just who they are. And that is what scares the living crap out of me, to tell you the truth, is that you have Aroldis Chapman, who I know, even if he has a bad day, he'll bounce back and will be fine. It's just how the nature of the beast goes in baseball. But at least with Aroldis Chapman, you know that he has a proven track record. And I can't say that for the rest of them in there. One thing before I do wrap up, this is unrelated to the Chris Murphy and the bullpen. Through 100 games, folks, I meant to mention this at the very beginning. Through 100 games in 2023, the Red Sox were 53 and 47. In 2024, the Red Sox, through 100 games, were 53 and 47. The Red Sox, through 100 games in 2025, well, we'll just repeat ourselves again. 53 and 47. That is a three-peat right there. We are going down the path right now of what it could be roller coaster out of control into. So, deja vu, here it comes.
Unbelievable. What a stat. It's just they are the model for consistency, just not in the greatest way. Switching gears before we end tonight, I want to talk a little bit about the Phillies series, only because we've got Chicago tomorrow. Crochet's got to win that, and we'll probably be on Monday night after the first game. But just to kind of give a little preview, obviously we've got Wheeler, Sanchez, and Luzardo. And it looks like we don't have two guys yet to be determined on who's starting. Giolito is listed on Wednesday, according to ESPN's website. So I just want to get a quick feeling. I mean, Zach Wheeler has been basically an ace for that team for a number of years. He's having another stellar season, 9-3 with a 2.36 at age 35. And then you got Christopher Sanchez, 8-2 with a 2.50 ERA and 122 strikeouts. I mean, these guys have been absolutely on fire. Nick, I'll start with you. What is your thoughts for that Phillies series? I know it's a little early, but just to kind of do it as a wrap up.
My thought is, do we really want to do a show after the Walker Buehler outing on Monday night? That's my real thought right now that's going through my head.
So you think it'll be Buehler?
But leave it to the Red Sox. Yeah, I think, Buehler's going to go Monday against Wheeler. I believe that was what Cotillo or one of the guys put out.
Okay.
Leave it to the 2025 Red Sox to get swept by the Cubs and then go and win against Zach Wheeler on Monday night. Leave it to them to do that. But maybe we see Walker Buehler find the fountain of youth and show us all that second half Buehler is ready to party. But I'm not feeling hot about the Phillies series. I think if the Red Sox do take anything, it would be the Wednesday game. Just my thought on that. I'm still struggling to figure out what's going to happen here for tomorrow's game. I can't even tell you right now with a straight face that I feel confident, even with Crochet going. He's rested. That's a good thing. But sometimes with rest comes with command issues and location problems, and it could be the getaway lineup tomorrow from Cora for all we know with what's going to happen.
We saw the getaway lineup today.
Oh, he'll just do a repeat again. Just get the hell out of Chicago and blow the wind out of them. So
There,
I'm just not feeling good. I'm just not feeling right tonight. I'm pissed. I'm aggravated. I feel like we're going down doomsday 5.0 with Alex Cora's Red Sox. I want to call them all out. Get your friggin' acts together, because I've had it.
There, your final reactions on the Philly series. What do you think's going to happen in that series?
Wheeler and Sanchez worry me. Sanchez, especially at home, is dominant this year. And Wheeler, we all know what he's capable of. It bothers me that the Red Sox still have undecided next to those two spots. I'm holding out hope. I feel like Nick. I'm in the same situation where coming off that 10-game winning streak, I was so pumped up. I'm like, come on, guys, do something. And then you get these two games where they just really, it hasn't been, we were using the word debacle. I wouldn't call it a debacle, so to speak. If these games were a month ago, it wouldn't have been a debacle. They lost 3-1, those sort of things. It's coming off that 10-game winning streak where we're all excited. Oh my, here we go, let's go. The All-Star break, it's time, and then they sort of don't come out. It's frustrating. I am worried about the Phillies, but at the same time, the Phillies bullpen is very susceptible. And if the Sox, this is where that pitching comes down to, which is unfortunate that we're throwing 4 and 5 in this situation, because I think if we could just maintain ourselves early on in those ball games, we have an opportunity to get at their underbelly of their bullpen. So it's possible. Again, they got to get out to an early lead, or at least not get behind where they can't come back. Tomorrow, like you were sort of saying, that sort of getaway day, that the Cubs are throwing a kid. He's a right-hander, so you're going to see the left-handed lineup, which I hope will give them an opportunity to get that lead early. Hopefully Duran will get us going and start to move forward. Jim, like you've been saying, this is sort of probably the naivety in me. I really am hoping they have something planned where maybe that undetermined is going to be a surprise. Like, oh, look, here we go. I know it's not happening, but the Twins, I don't think have thrown that guy we're all looking at yet. So I wonder, but I don't see the Sox making a trade or any move to bring in someone that will help to sustain us over this next couple of games. I'm going to be positive and say we're going to take tomorrow, and then let's say 2 out of 3, because we're going to get to the bullpen in one of the first 2 games of the Phillies. And we always beat the Phillies in Philly.
Sounds pretty positive. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. We will be back tomorrow night. Nick, go ahead. Sure.
One last thing before we wrap up. I don't know if you guys heard it, but if anybody was counting on Tanner Houck to be coming back this season, stick a fork in him. He's done.
Yep.
That's not happening. So that was the last thing I wanted to mention before we wrapped. He will not be back, and I'm guaranteeing you it's for the season. They're saying that's it.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast a little bit earlier, I think last week. I'm not even sure I want him back. I don't have any confidence in him, but his rehab's over, and they said he's not coming back as of right now. So I think you're right, Nick. I think he's done for the season. We'll see how that goes. But that's going to do it for tonight. I'd like to thank Thayer and Nick for joining me. We will be live tomorrow again, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So we should be live tomorrow, probably around 7:30. We'll let you know, and we can wrap up the Chicago game. Hopefully Crochet pitches a great one, and we can at least take one of these and then go into Philly and try to hopefully take 2 out of 3. But in any event, I'd like to wish everybody a good evening, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Good night, everyone.